Welcome back to J-Thunda's Music Reviews. And for today's episode, this is actually episode 5 of my ongoing series where I talk about my favorite albums from every year since the year 1967. And last week's episode was 1970. I will have the playlist for all of the episodes down below. This is episode 5, and we're going to be talking about my favorite albums from the year 1971. And this actually has my favorite album of all time, so I'm definitely excited for that. You can probably guess what it is if you've seen any of my previous videos, honestly. But there's a lot of other fantastic albums from this year specifically, so I'm going to be chatting about all of those. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right to it. First off, I'll mention an album that I haven't listened to a lot. This is actually a recent album listen for me, and that would be Tapestry by Carole King. I've heard of this artist, and I've heard of this album in particular, but I had never listened to it, and I actually listened to it for the first time a few weeks ago, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I really liked her sound. I really liked her voice. I really liked this album. I'm not going to call it like an all-time favorite now. I'm going to listen to it a few more times, but honestly, it's really good, so definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. Another album that I do really enjoy, maybe not like an all-time favorite, but it is a fun album to listen to, is Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Not one of my all-time favorite artists, maybe an artist I could give, some more listens to because I've only really heard of like a couple of their albums. But this one is definitely my favorite from Jethro Tull. Of course, has the hit song of Aqualung, which is a really fun song, but it also has Cross-Eyed Mary, Mother Goose, Hymn 43, and Locomotive Breath. So overall, very fun, kind of quirky album from 1971. So Aqualung by Jethro Tull. And then we actually have two albums from the band Yes from this year. Their first one was the Yes album, which is actually probably my favorite Yes album. Probably an underrated pick in my mind. It has some of my all-time favorite songs from Yes, including Yours Is No Disgrace and I've Seen All Good People. But it also has The Clap, which is kind of a live rendition of just an acoustic romp. Really fun. You got Starship Trooper, Adventure, and Perceptual Change. But yeah, really fun album here. Probably my favorite Yes album, and I've Seen All Good People might be my favorite Yes song. But like I've said, you've also got another album from Yes in the same year called Fragile, which this is definitely a fan favorite. Probably people would cite this as their number 1 or 2 favorite Yes album. For good reason. You've got Roundabout, which is probably their most well-known song. And then you've got kind of an assortment of random interludes and instrumental stuff all done by different members of the band. You got Cans and Brahms, we have Heaven, South Side of the Sky, 5% for Nothing, Long Distance Runaround, which is another favorite, The Fish, which is a fun song, Mood for a Day, and they end with the epic 10.5-minute Heart of the Sunrise. And really cool song. But yeah, both of these albums came out in 1971. Probably my 2 favorite Yes albums. We also have Hunky Dory by David Bowie, probably my first or second favorite David Bowie album. Again, probably David Bowie, an album, or an artist, I should say, that I need to listen to more of. I've really only heard a couple of his albums, maybe like 2 or 3. But yeah, definitely worth checking out this album. It has one of my all-time favorite David Bowie songs in Changes, but it's also got Life on Mars. It's got Andy Warhol. It's got Queen Bitch. It's got a lot of fun songs on here, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. Also, let me know what David Bowie albums I should check out if you're a David Bowie fan. You've also got one of my all-time favorite Elton John albums, Madman Across the Water, which of course has some hit songs like Tiny Dancer, very well known, and Leave On, but you've also got Razorface, the title track of Madman Across the Water, which is really fun. You've got Indian Sunset, Holiday Inn. You've also got maybe my top favorite Elton John song of all time. It's definitely in the top 3. Rotten Peaches, one of his best deep cuts. Definitely check it out if you haven't. And then it ends with All the Nasties and Goodbye. But yeah, fantastic Elton John album, one of his best from the 70s. I will eventually rank all of Elton John's 70s albums. I'm not sure if I want to tackle a full Elton John ranking because that is so many albums, but I could definitely rank all of his 70s stuff. Let me know if you're excited for that. We also have Fireball by Deep Purple, which is actually their album that came out right after Deep Purple and Rock, which I talked about in 1970. Fireball, I actually like a bit more than Deep Purple and Rock. You've got, obviously, the title track of Fireball, which is just one of the best drum songs of all time. If you haven't heard of it, just listen to it, because it's one of the best drum songs of all time. But you've also got No, 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 Strange Kind of Woman, Anyone's Daughter, The Mule, Fools, and No One Came. So definitely a fantastic Deep Purple album, and just do yourself a favor if you haven't dove deep into Deep Purple yet, definitely check out this album. You've also got Who's Next, which is probably my favorite all-time album from the band The Who. You've obviously got the big mega hits of Baba O'Reilly, Bargain, Behind Blue Eyes, and of course, Won't Get Fooled Again. Fantastic songs, some of the best songs by The Who in its entirety. But you've also got some cool deep cuts on here. Love Ain't For Keeping, My Wife, The Song Is Over, Getting in Tune, and a personal favorite of mine, Going Mobile. So overall, just a fantastic album with a lot of deep cuts and obviously some of their biggest hits of all time. And then we get to my top two favorite albums from the year 1971. Obviously, we'll get to my top favorite one in a second, but I'm going to talk about my second favorite album from 1971, which is by Pink Floyd, of course, and that would be Metal. This is actually my second favorite Pink Floyd album of all time. Obviously, the first one being Dark Side of the Moon. And actually, if you haven't watched it before, I kind of just spoiled it. But definitely check out my ranking of all of the Pink Floyd studio albums. Like I said, Metal is my favorite. It actually has my two favorite Pink Floyd songs of all time. It opens with One of These Days, which is fantastic. And then it ends with the 23-minute epic of Echoes, which is probably my favorite Pink Floyd song of all time. But everything in the middle kind of juxtaposes like the epicness of those two songs, and I love that contrast. You've got a pillow of Winds, Fearless, Saint Tropez, and Seamus, all kind of weirdly in the middle of these two epic songs. I love it. I love how weird it is, and it's my second favorite Pink Floyd album of all time, and it's my second favorite album from the year 1971. And of course, if you've seen my previous episodes or really just any of my videos, you know what's coming. It's Led Zeppelin 4 by, of course, Led Zeppelin. My favorite album from 1971 and also my favorite album of all time. And I've already talked in length about this album, but basically, it's my favorite Led Zeppelin album. It's my favorite album of all time. It's been my favorite since I first discovered it in middle school and really got into Led Zeppelin. You've obviously got the big hits of Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Stairway to Heaven, When the Levee Breaks, but also the deep cuts on here are amazing. You've got Misty Mountain Hop, you got Going to California, you got Four Sticks, you got Battle of Evermore, so it's really just a perfect album, my favorite Led Zeppelin album, and just my favorite album of all time. All right, so those are my favorite albums from the year 1971. And just to recap, we've got Tapestry by Carole King, which I've mentioned is a recent listen. I'm going to be listening to this a lot because I really enjoyed it. We've got Aqualung by Jethro Tull. We've got two albums by Yes, Fragile and the Yes album. We've got Hunky Dory by David Bowie. We've got Madman Across the Water by Elton John. We've got Fireball from Deep Purple. We've got Who's Next by The Who. We've got Metal by Pink Floyd, and then we've got Led Zeppelin 4 by Led Zeppelin. Not only my favorite album from the year 1971, but my favorite album of all time. So yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think of my picks for the year 1971. Do you agree with my picks? Do you not agree? And also just in general, what are your favorite albums from the year 1971? I'd love to chat with you about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one.